Greetings family, welcome to the Financial Literacy session. It is brought to you by the Financial Literacy Foundation and MTW. Financial Literacy Foundation is an NPC or non-profit company which is set to educate and impart financial education to you. Today we want to talk about understanding medical schemes. But before we do that, let me also join and say Happy Women's Month to all the women at Mana Tabernacle and all our Facebook family and friends. And I want to say we are very proud of you. We can't do anything without you, and we love you. May God continue to bless you and strengthen you as you take this challenge of raising the nation. My name is Chriswell Baloyi. I'm the founder and the chairperson of the foundation, Financial Literacy Foundation, as I've said. I'm also an independent financial planner at Matimela Investment. Matimela is an authorized financial services provider. We offer holistic financial planning to the public in general. I'm also an accredited medical schemes advisor, and I'm also an accredited and authorized general tax practitioner. So it is in this regard, perhaps let me start with the very first thing, which is a highlight in this past week, that you might have received an SMS from SARS giving you results of the assessment, your tax assessment. Let me say that this is what we call an auto assessment, which SARS have started this year to use, or the method that SARS has started to use to do income tax assessment. And one of the shortcomings in this system is that it may not take into consideration some of your much needed SARS attention. For example, it may not have taken your medical schemes contribution into consideration. It may not have taken your use of your cell phone for business or for work purposes into consideration. It may not have taken into account the use of your vehicle for work. So and your retirement annuity contributions and other things that might be of importance to you when it comes to your rendering of your tax returns. So if you have received such an SMS and you are one of such people who are having these underlying issues that I've mentioned, it may do well for you not to necessarily agree to such an assessment. You are allowed to can object. So object and consult your tax professional to assist you in making sure that your tax affairs are taken into consideration. I hope this will assist you in navigating towards your tax and your tax life going forward. In this series that we started last week, we are talking about developing a balanced financial plan. And we outlined last week that what is it that we consider as a balanced financial plan. And one of the things that we need to take into consideration in having a balanced financial plan is to make sure that you have a plan or a strategy that addresses every area in your life that involves money. And one of those things, it is your health and your medical expenses. So health, life were given by God, but maintaining it, it is given unto us to take care of it. We cannot say that because we are given life by God and we don't attend or help ourselves in making sure that we stay healthy, and we say that it is God who gave life. We will be wrong. We will be misinterpreting in that way. So let us take into consideration that our health is primary. In fact, medical aids and medical expenses, they are a #1 priority when we look at having a balanced financial plan in our lives. So I've already given your opening with regard to the income tax as being the latest development that we have seen in this past week with regard to the tax assessment, or what we call auto assessment. But going forward, as I said, that today we will be looking at medical schemes, and we seek to want to understand exactly how medical schemes and medical insurance operate. So we want to demystify this concept. It is not gonna be easy to talk about everything relating to medical aid or medical insurance, but we will do our best in order for us to be able to deal with what we can deal with. I think our talk will be a two-part discussion, given the length of what I have thought being necessary to share with you. Let's start off here. Having spoken of SARS, your contributions to the medical aid and your medical expenses are regarded as essential when we come to assessing your income tax. In the past, we used to talk about deductions or deductibility of your medical aid contributions. Recently, over the past few years, the laws have changed, or the tax rules have changed, that where we no longer talk about the deductibility of contributions, but we talk about tax credits. So the contributions that you make into your medical aid and the expenses that you incur in your medical care, it might be purchasing of drugs or medication, it may be consulting and paying professional practitioners like doctors or the hospitals. It may be any other thing that has to do with your medical bills. All of these are grouped together, and we use a certain formula to calculate what we call tax credits. So all of these things are taken into consideration. Now you can appreciate what I said earlier on a few minutes ago when I say SARS may not have taken into account your tax credits when it comes to your medical contribution and your medical bills, because they will not know unless if you have informed them. So bear that in mind. Now, what do we need to know about medical aids? Let me start and say you must, Mzalwan, you must have a medical aid, and I'm referring to a proper medical aid. Is there a medical aid which is not proper? Not really, but there is a lot of products out there which are regarded as medical insurance products, and they are not necessarily medical aid. Hence, I speak of a proper medical aid. A proper medical aid, it is registered and authorized by the Council for Medical Schemes. So anything which is not under the Council for Medical Schemes, it is not a medical aid. It may be something else. So many products out there, they masquerade in the name of medical aid. You know why? Because people know that medical bills are very serious and they are quite large. So if they speak of any product that can help you in taking care of your medical bills, we will jump into taking such into consideration. We've got two groups of products under the medical insurance, and they are both legal. And being legal does not necessarily mean they are relevant in any particular circumstances, because some of them are very vague in their marketing. Number one, it is the medical aid, which is governed under the Medical Schemes Act. I'm referring to medical aids which are authorized by the Council for Medical Schemes. These are products that are governed by the Medical Schemes Act. And the other group, like I said, we've got two groups. The other group, it is the medical products or medical insurance products that are governed by the Long-Term Insurance Act. So here there is a distinction, and they don't operate the same. Although majority of the people who buy the insurance product which is under the Long-Term Insurance Act, they think that they are buying a medical aid, and they only realize at the claim stage that they are given different stories and it is actually not a medical aid. So let us bear in mind that these are two different products, both legal but not serving the same purpose. My emphasis in this is that you must never think that you understand this particular product that you are being confronted with. Get an advisor who will worry about its registration, whether it is registered under the Council for Medical Schemes or the Medical Schemes Act, or it is governed or registered under the Long-Term Insurance Act and therefore registered by the FSCA, the Financial Services Conduct Authority. It is important also to highlight that marketing calls and buying online, it's very popular and they are very aggressive in this regard. There are few things that I will want us to understand in that aspect. When you respond to a marketing call, it is assumed that you understand what you are responding to. It is assumed that you are the one who have chosen the product, and so there is no advice given. One of the fine statements that they tell us when we are on the phone with that call center person, it is often going like, please be reminded that this does not constitute financial advice. Please beware that we are not authorized to give you financial advice. And guess what? It is true. You must know that once you hear such words, they are actually saying, it is assumed that you are the one who called us. Yes, it's true, they called you. Yes, it's true, you didn't even know of their existence and everything, but by law, it is assumed that you approached them. So bear in mind, hence I emphasized in the beginning of this series that it is important to get a qualified financial advisor to help you to navigate through the intricacies and the legalities around the financial services products that we are embarking on. So it is assumed that you understand the terms and conditions even before you read them, by the way, even before you receive them, let alone reading them. So it is cheap, friends, to respond to a marketing call, but it is another thing to be sure whether you have been sold the right product. So you will be left holding everything in your hands. And by the way, some of these cases, they end up in the office of the ombud, the watchdog of the financial services. And you know what happens there? Those guys, they are always or usually the ones who are successful because they are able to prove that according to the law or the rules that govern their operations, they did not do anything wrong, because it is assumed that the person that they were talking to, he understand exactly what they were saying. So don't be left in a cold. Let us understand that the fact that it is cheap and it looks like a medical aid, it does not make it a medical aid. Bear that in mind. Now, what do medical aids do? You might ask that question. Is it necessary to ask this? It is very necessary, because out of this we will be able to understand the business of medical aids, and then we distinguish it from the business of insurance products. Medical schemes collect premiums in exchange for financial coverage related to medical cost. So they collect premiums in exchange for financial coverage related to medical costs. So there are different plans that medical aids can come as, and let us simply highlight these plans. We've got the hospital plans, we've got the comprehensive plans, we've got the income-based plans, and we've got hospital plans with savings benefits. All the medical aids, their options and their types and everything, they are within these four bands that I've highlighted. What is the difference between a life insurance plan and a medical aid? We said about the governance of such a product, but let us go deeper with regard to that. Medical aid provides in-hospital cover, and it pays for treatment according to the specific medical tariffs. So they use tariffs and they pay according to such specific tariffs. And medical insurance, on the other hand, they pay for nominated procedures. Generally, they offer limited cover or a fixed amount of such nominated procedures. So they say, if you get this kind of medical condition, we will pay you so much on a percentage basis relating to your cover. So you will have a specific cover amount, and everything is calculated based on your specific cover that you have selected. So you can see that it is something different from a medical aid. Also, another thing to distinguish the two is that medical schemes or medical aids, they pay the service provider, that is the doctor or the hospital or the pharmacy, whereas on the medical insurance, they pay you directly. So it doesn't matter how much costs you have incurred when you consulted or when you attended to that medical condition, but they pay according to a percentage. Whereas medical aids, they are not interested on what you have paid personally, because you are not expected to be paying anything unless where maybe there were no authorizations and things like that, and we shall deal with this at a later stage in this talk, where now you may pay and they reimburse you. It also happens, but generally medical aids, they will pay directly to the service provider. Let's get deeper. Now, what medical aids schemes, what do they cover? I'm referring to the medical aid schemes now. We have distinguished between medical insurance product and a medical aid. So what do medical aids cover? They cover for your major medical benefits. They also cover for your chronic conditions. They also cover your day-to-day expenses or your day-to-day cover. And then they also have what we call medical savings account. We shall deal with this on a one-by-one basis. Now, let's look at the day-to-day benefit. The day-to-day benefit, this is where now the medical aid benefit covering you out of hospital cover. So, in other words, this, you are not hospitalized, but you have consulted. So, we call that an out-of-hospital care. So, it happens, and it happens more frequently. It includes your doctor's visits, it includes your prescribed medication, it includes your dentistry, it includes your optometry, just to mention a few of such conditions. So all of what that I've mentioned, it is covered under the day-to-day. So these benefits, they will differ between schemes according to the plan that you will have selected. So some you will often hear, no, my medical aid is finished. Some you never get to hear them talking about medical aids being finished. It doesn't matter whether it is the one that finishes early or not. But all in all, what we need to understand is that what you are saying it is finished, it is the day-to-day part of your medical aid. So some of the medical aids, they don't provide the day-to-day benefits at all, but they focus on the hospital treatment or in the hospitalization and the costs associated with the hospitalization. Now, let us get to understand what is the difference in that. So, we want to look at the difference between a hospital plan and a medical aid. Number one, hospital plans. I'm referring to the hospital plans which are from a medical aid. I want to highlight that because, like I said earlier, we get a lot of these things that claim to be this, whereas they are not. I'm referring to a hospital plan which is from a registered medical aid. Now, a hospital plan is a type of the medical aid that covers the in-hospital treatment and the procedures. So you need to be admitted in hospital for this plan to work for you. So it does not provide the day-to-day, and it does not even give you the over-the-counter benefits. It is a hospital plan. Now, a normal medical aid, based on what you are selecting, of course, will normally offer the day-to-day benefits. But you have a normal medical aid also, which is only and specifically a hospital plan. So the degree of coverage will depend on the medical aid that you have selected, the plan that you have selected, and so on and so on. But both hospital plans and the normal medical aid, they provide you for what we call prescribed minimum benefits. And prescribed minimum benefits, these are the benefits which every medical aid, irrespective of whether it is the green one or the blue one, every medical aid, including hospital plans, they all provide prescribed minimum benefits. And also, hospital plans, they also cover or include what we call emergency medical conditions. Emergency medical conditions are situations or conditions which are emergency in nature. So you don't book for a planned procedure or a planned operation. That is not emergency. But should you be hospitalized, you go and see a doctor using your own money, not on a medical aid. You use your own funds, you pay a doctor for consultation, and the doctor says you need hospitalization urgently. That will be regarded as an emergency. So if you happen to be on a vehicle accident on the road, or if you happen to fall in the house, or you have anything which is regarded as emergency, your medical aid, which is a hospital plan only medical aid, will cover, and it will pay the hospital in full. And we are referring to a private hospital here. So a hospital plans, they make use of private hospitals to attend to your medical needs. Let's look at the last aspect for the day-to-day. What are the prescribed minimum benefits that I mentioned earlier when I said your hospital plan and your comprehensive plans and every other medical aid, they cover a prescribed minimum benefits. These are the conditions which are listed by the Act to say every medical aid, like it or not, every medical aid must have this list included in their schemes options. So every medical aid in South Africa, they pay for such diagnosis and they pay for such treatment, and we are having about 270 conditions according to the specific guideline that has been put in place. So, and they pay without charging you directly, whether you are on the comprehensive one, which includes the day-to-day, or you are on a hospital plan only. You are covered for the prescribed minimum benefits without having to being charged separately or directly. So it is automatic and it is included. And your medical aid should cover for the treatment of prescribed minimum benefits condition in full. So in other words, there are no co-payments that you need to be paying when we refer to the prescribed minimum benefits. And you are not using the day-to-day benefit when we are looking at the prescribed minimum benefit. And we are not looking at your medical savings account when we deal with the prescribed minimum benefits. There are many other things that we can deal with when it comes to the prescribed minimum benefits. In generally, to run through them, is that when you are a member of a medical aid, you are guaranteed, whether you are in hospital or you are out of hospital, you are guaranteed for the treatment of the prescribed minimum benefits. And these are the conditions that are considered life-threatening, and they include cancer, and they include other conditions that are degenerative conditions in nature. And medical aids now, it doesn't matter how much that costs to treat such or to do such diagnosis. You are covered in full. So you are to receive treatment and you are to get medication for it. Now, some medical aids will only cover that when you use what we call a designated service provider. So when we come back next week, that's where we're gonna be starting. What is a designated service provider and how do I determine such kind of things? But let me conclude in saying, it is important, my friend, that you have a proper medical aid. It is important that you consider how to choose a medical aid. Get advice, get a specialist or an accredited advisor who can help you with that. But just to tell you, it depends on you or your family's medical history and your family's current medical conditions, because some you may not necessarily need the day-to-day or the comprehensive medical aid, but let me tell you, you always and you will still need the hospital plan at all times. So let's get help, friends. Let us make sure that we cover some of these areas so that we are having a proper and a standing financial plan that will be able to stand in every area of our lives should anything that knocks on our doors. May God help us to continue planning and having a balanced financial plan. May God help us to determine or to select properly a financial advisor that you can partner with in making sure that your attention it's taken care of. May God bless you all and may God increase you in Jesus' name.